Hi, Louis. How are you?
Amber. Yeah, good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Louis. Thanks for taking the time today. And
Of course.
I've known you for some years now. And as part of Next Door Inspiration, you were one of those, first people that I wanted to talk to. And as a start, we had Rajiv Prabhagar, who became an entrepreneur at 54, and people have listened to his interview. Likewise, I would like to talk to you about your journey and how you converted yourself from being a 9 to 5 person, 9 to 5 in a full-time job, into becoming an entrepreneur. So,
Yeah.
just to give a background about Louis. So, Louis and I used to work at a bond trading platform, and I highly rate Louis. For a brief period, I managed Louis with certain aspects of his work. And Louis definitely carries a calm persona and is always available to help sort any complex issues. As a manager back then, I could trust him with his judgment and gave him a lot of freedom that he reciprocated with excellent results. Louis is an example for many children that need clarity in their lives post their schooling or graduation. Also, someone that motivates people that want to move away from their 9 to 5 jobs and start something on their own. He is famous on TikTok, YouTube, and Insta for his videos about different drama series on different platforms. Let me introduce Louis. Louis, please, you want to say a few things about yourself?
No, I appreciate that, Amber, for all the kind words. Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm 23 years old. I started my entrepreneurship journey last year, about 9 months ago. With that, I've created multiple social media channels that produce over 100 million views every 3 months or so. And with that, I also run a marketing agency called Savvy Digital, which is a Google Ads campaign agency.
Thank you, Louis. I think that's a brief introduction, but
Yeah.
I have a few questions that I would like you to talk to us about. But
Yep.
before we get started, so Louis he decided to stop straight after school. He wanted to get into a job, and he worked for a bond trading platform. So it was a very demanding job within electronic trading, and he was quite successful with his job.
Mm.
So, Louis, can you tell us why did you decide not to pursue higher education?
So it's something that never really interested me. From a young age, I knew that I wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted to have the independence that came with it, and I really liked the idea of building something from the ground up. Generally, I think when I finished my A levels, I was just ready to take the next step and go into the working world, and really prove my worth, and be amongst many other professionals, to kind of progress professionally and personally.
Was education in any way a deterrent?
Uh, in terms of, I mean, generally, I think education's great. I think the way it was structured, in sort of higher education just didn't align with where I saw myself kind of progressing. In terms of my role, it's something I still, considered further down the line, but I was more than lucky to land the position that I was in, and I think I thrived at the time.
I would say, the word lucky, it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So
Mm.
you were very clear about what you wanted to do. So you did want to probably take the time out, find the right kind of job that you wanted to be in, and you wanted to see whether that's the right thing to do. And now I believe you have come to a stage where you have identified your strengths and you're focusing more towards that. So let's get
Yep.
into a little bit of that fun, right? The fun side where you decided to quit the job and you decided to become an entrepreneur. So what made you quit? And the reason I ask that is you were in a job that was paying your bills, that was pretty much taking care of you, and you were a
Mm.
top performer. So that I can very well vouch for you. So what made you quit? Hopefully, it's not me. I wasn't that long, but yeah.
No, it wasn't for sure. I think for me, it was a case of stepping out of my comfort zone once again. When I initially kind of joined the company we both worked at, I went into the working world of no expectations and built my way up and progressed to where I thought I was comfortable in. And then from there, when I kind of reached that zone, I wanted to strive for, the ultimate goal, which is to create a business. So once I worked in that role and I got experience with client delivery, sort of working with clients and generally working within a growing business, I decided it was the right time to, once again, go outside of my comfort zone and try to progress even further.
Okay. And I believe, there is one other thing you told me when we were preparing for this interview. You said you wanted your name above the door.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were building a business, you wanted your name above the door. So that's a huge statement. And I think at that age, having that clarity, it's a huge thing. And I think it's a big thing that people that are young and old should realize. Building your own brand and having your own name matters, right? End of it,
Yeah.
right? You can work for a you can work in a very big job. You can probably have a living out of it. But if you build something for yourself and having your name there and building a brand, that's much bigger. And probably you can add little bits and pieces about how did you transition into this? How did you transition moving into, let's say, this entrepreneurship? Did you start when, let's say, 2 years into your job, or when did this idea came to your mind?
Yeah, I think a common misconception with people that, see younger entrepreneurs that go from a job into entrepreneurship, they see it as me not wanting to work a 9 to 5, me not being interested in that side of things. But generally, it wasn't really the case. It just didn't sort of satisfy all the desires I had. And where, I particularly did well in that position, it didn't give me the gratification and the satisfaction that I was looking for. So with that, I knew that I had to look elsewhere, whether that was, potentially another sort of industry or potentially starting my own business altogether. And as I knew from a young age, that was always something I wanted to do. And as I mentioned, for me, it's about legacy and having my name above the door and building something. I knew that that was the only thing that was going to satisfy that. So to kind of transition and, do it in a way that was clever and, not too gung ho, I decided to move into a part-time position, working 2.5 days a week, so I could start to build some client testimonials, get some real-world experience, and understand what it's like to start a business. And mostly to find out if I actually would enjoy it, because the grass is always greener.
Yeah, that and also I think you touched upon an interesting fact. Your firm was happy for you to go into a part-time role to explore what you wanted to do, which is a big statement. And I think there are still firms like that exist where they are happy for their employees to go explore. And if things had worked out, in your case, it has worked out and you're really enjoying your job, whatever you're building for yourself, I think is the greatest thing. If things weren't working, you had a fallback. You always had, something that you could go back and, nothing would have, the risk that you have taken was pretty much mitigated. We used to work in electronic trading, and risk was a huge factor, and you sort of managed it very well. So how did you prepare yourself? What I mean by that is, okay, so at work, they were happy for you to go on a part-time role, but how did you prepare yourself to actually execute? Who was your first client? How did you approach them? What was your, pitch to them?
Yeah, no, of course. I think my first ever client was a vehicle recovery business in Bristol, and I actually found him through Facebook. So it was me just surfing through Facebook groups, and I knew that I needed to, because I didn't want to go into the business and invest money I didn't have to lose. So I knew that if I was going to ever start a business, be successful, I had to find a way to generate an income on a very little budget or small budget generally. So I started on Facebook, I went through groups and did everything I could that was free to me and freely available to get my first couple of clients. And with that, once I kind of started to get an idea of how I could generate leads for myself, I knew that I could generate leads for other people too. With that as well, it was the main thing was creating the client testimonials and creating the trust that will come with it. Because in the business that I'm in the advertising space and marketing, referrals is everything. and word spreads quickly whether you did a good job or a bad job. So I had to prepare myself where I had experience from my previous company, understanding, what clients are happy with and what satisfies them. I also had to understand how to get them through the door with sales as well as, expectations.
Brilliant. And when did you decide enough was enough with your permanent job, and when did you move out?
Yeah, so I decided enough was enough when I got my second client, just to prove that my first client wasn't a fluke. Because we never really know, things stumble across you and you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But once I had my second client and I knew that I could do this reliably and replace my income to some point where I was comfortable, that's when I knew that I had to take the plunge. Getting started is the hardest point, but everything else falls into place.
Was it a smooth transition? Did things work as expected?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 months were very smooth. Everything was very exciting. And as I was moving away from the part-time role, it was almost like I was on holiday every day and getting to do whatever I wanted to do. But after that, it starts to settle in where it becomes a reality that this will, if it's successful, become the rest of my life. And with that, it was a lonely road ahead, but one that I was ready for. And I knew there was a lot of work to be done. But with that, it's exciting because I'm building something of my own. And everything that I put into it is one step closer to achieving that dream.
That is brilliant. I mean, lonely road, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm pretty sure soon it will have a lot of people and you will probably stay at the top. So, okay. So why did you choose to become a multimedia professional? Can you explain what you do and how you do it? High level, probably.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, like I said, there's two facets of the businesses that I operate in. So the first facet is the Google Ads management. So where I manage Google Ads campaigns for local service-based businesses to generate warm leads at an effective cost. So to do that, I set up highly targeted campaigns. I do a lot of due diligence and research beforehand to understand the psychology of the people that are looking for their services and make sure that they're spending their money in the right place when it comes to advertising. So with that, generating client results and generating a return investment is the key thing. On the flip side, in the content creation space, I spent a lot of time consuming the content I wanted to end up creating. So for me to know what made a good video and what made a great video was very clear. And I just had to apply the same things that I enjoyed watching to my own videos. And
Okay.
I have a rule where I try to, as much content as I watch, I try to produce as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. And ChatGPT probably can help you in the future.
Yeah, for sure. With a lot of script writing and, writer's block, if you're trying to create a script for some sort of story you want to portray, ChatGPT and AI tools are great for kind of getting you over that initial hump.
Oh, that is brilliant. And how many clients are you managing now?
Yeah, so on the Google Ads front, it's between 15 and 20 clients at any given time. And it fluctuates, depending on sort of the workflow and the workload I can take on.
And how are these clients coming to you? Again, do you go through Facebook or are these referrals? How does it work?
Yeah, so since I've started, I've tried every sort of client generation method under the sun, just so I could get a good understanding of what worked for them too. So I started off with Facebook groups, then transitioned into cold calling, cold emailing, and more recently now I'm involved in several networking groups in which, as I mentioned, referrals is a huge part of this business, because with the referrals comes a level of trust. So you're starting off on the right foot.
That's brilliant. And you have a steady stream of income?
Yeah, so with the agency side, it's a monthly retainer, which is where the kind of fees come into play for my services. But on the flip side, with the content creation, it's more inconsistent because it depends on how the video performs and the advertiser income that comes through.
So how popular are you, Louis, on the content side? how many views and where all? Do you look at the analytics? Do you see where your videos have been looked at? What is your reach?
Yeah, 100%. So with the content that I produce, I distribute it across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. With that, TikTok is the main driver of a lot of the kind of clicks and hits I get. So with that, to date, I've generated over 300 million views across all platforms.
Wow.
Yeah, with around 250 to 300,000 followers as well. And in terms of the demographic, it's all ages, really. I mean, with TikTok, people underestimate the amount of people in their 30s and 40s actually watch the content. So it is a great platform to advertise on and for any business to be on. So that's why I kind of see it as an underutilized platform. But yeah, it's mostly across sort of countries like the United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom, of course.
Okay. And are you happy for children, let's say students that are coming out of uni, students that are coming, from school, if they want direction, let's say if they want to get into digital media, would you be able to talk to them? Would you be able to give them some guidance?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important because, guidance was something I lacked when I was at school. There wasn't much advice in terms of what to do other than uni. I think we had one seminar about apprenticeships in a 2-year span at sixth form, which was all we got. And I think, I had to learn a lot from online content and online mentors to understand what there was outside of the university route, which is important for me. And I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't, kind of look up to these people, these online personalities that took the route that differed from what the teachers advised. Not saying that it's there's a right and wrong thing. It just has to fit what's best with you.
No, when, as you said, grass is always greener on the other side, right? So a lot of people think it's easy money in digital media, but the amount of hard work that goes in, and someone that, that has had 300 million views, you can speak about it, right? How much effort you had to put in, and you need to be clever about it. It's not about hard work anymore, that we all understand, but it needs to be smart work, trying to see who the right people are. As you mentioned, people age groups, right? 30 to 40. So what kind of content they like, and you need to prepare that content. And did you try a lot before you became successful, let's say, with your content?
Oh yeah, I've probably been through around 50 channels, and like many people have been through like 50 businesses. It's the same thing with the social media side. I've done every different niche, tried every different thing, and probably produced well over 1,000 videos. But it just takes one to take off, and then you kind of get the direction. The thing is, when you're producing these videos, there's no guarantee of what's going to come from it. You just kind of have to hope. But if you're going to produce a video, you want to make it a good one, and that's the only way you can guarantee any sort of traction.
Wow. And age, do you think it's a deterrent to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I don't think in terms of the reality of it, I think you need to use your age to your advantage. I think a lot of people think that being younger comes with inexperience, but when we're in a space that's ever changing, like an advertising platform like Google Ads or TikTok, for example, TikTok's only 2-3 years old. You can't have any more experience than that, really. You can transfer skills from other platforms, but people that are, younger tend to have more experience with it because they were earlier to the game and they've had more experience in it in terms of lifespan of the actual platform itself. So where there are transferable skills, most platforms are individual in their essence, and you have to learn just by consuming the content and producing content and working on that specific platform. So you need to use that kind of the age gap as also a benefit in that case.
Excellent. And just one question, right? How many hours do you work in a week?
So while I was working a 9 to 5, it's probably between 40 and 45 hours, something around there. And then now I actually work more than I did before. So probably 50 to 60 hours. But again, the work's more enjoyable, and most of the time it doesn't even feel like work. And I think that's the important part.
That's brilliant. And if I remember correctly, back then when you used to work, you used to plan your holidays well ahead of time. So how is it going now? Do you find time for your holidays? What do you do?
Yeah, 100%. I think I do still find time. I've been on, a few weekend breaks and weekday breaks and city breaks since I've been an entrepreneur. It does take a lot of planning, and you need to make sure that obviously in a client satisfactory industry that I'm in, you have to have these meetings and keep constant sort of updates with your clients. So you have to plan ahead and make sure that it doesn't clash. Because technically, when you're a solo entrepreneur like I am right now, I'm the one point of call, and they rely on me for their advertisements to perform. So I'm always, on call to some degree, but I do have the flexibility of being able to work when I want to work and, do what I want to do.
That's a great thing, right? I mean,
Mm.
having the independence and freedom.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge, and how did you manage it?
I think the biggest challenge for me has been staying motivated. Generally, like I said, the first 3 months of any new thing is really exciting. A new job, for example, you're still learning, everything's very new, and you have time to make mistakes. And there was the same thing with the entrepreneurship. I gave myself a lot of slack. But then after those 3 months, that honeymoon period kind of wears off. You realize this is your life now. It's the rest of your life, and especially if you have a family, they're relying on you to make it work, and you need to stay motivated. So keeping motivated is the key, and to do that you have to set yourself achievable goals, as well as focus on one thing at a time. A lot of people have shiny object syndrome, where they jump from one thing to another, but you have to pick one thing and really stick at it.
So that's a great answer, actually.
Mm.
How do you feel now as an entrepreneur, and how did you feel back when you were in a job?
Yeah, I'd say nowadays I'm in a happier place where I can understand things better and I have more independence. I think where while you're in a job, you get kind of a pat on the back, you get guidance, you get a lot of feedback, which is fantastic. And with entrepreneurship, it's easy to fall into imposter syndrome, where because you don't get as much feedback and no one's going to pat you on the back, you have to kind of figure things out for yourself, which is tough at first, but in the long term, I've realized how beneficial it is, because it's pushed me to do things that I never thought that I was capable of.
That's you're very clever, Louis. I mean, I see what has taken you to this journey.
Yeah.
Describe your typical day for us, right? And just do a quick, I mean, if you remember what you were doing, let's say a year ago, when you were employed full time, versus the last 6 to 8 months when you were fully into this. Describe your
Yeah.
typical day.
I think so. My typical day, based on the role that I was working before, a lot of it was responding to email inquiries, and a lot of ad hoc requests as well. Some kind of client support over the phones, through the trading platform. And with that, I was sending upwards of 100, 150 emails a day, just trying to get the volume out. Nowadays, the work that I do in the entrepreneurship is more quality based. I try to focus, and every day is very different. But the one thing that comes first is the clients themselves, before anything, before the content and everything else. As an agency, and that being my main focus, I just make sure that they're happy, and making sure that I can retain the clients, because getting the clients is fine, but retaining them is what the important part is. So a lot of it is deliverables and communication with the client, making sure that they're fully informed of everything that's happening. And whenever I have any other spare moment, I'm trying to grow both my personal and my company's brand.
That's again, I mean, great thing to have, right? So you look forward to every other day. So your first priority is your client's satisfaction.
Yeah,
And that's a beautiful thing to have. And that in turn is growing your own brand and business.
yeah, exactly.
Great. Has being an entrepreneur affected your personal life at all?
Yeah, I think it's benefited it. I think it's given me a lot more freedom, flexibility to work any hours I choose, and it generally allows me to just see work as something that's enjoyable, and I can grow with it rather than trying to live for the weekends. So everything is a moment where I can kind of grow with it. And in terms of my personal life, like I said, I've recently been part of different networking groups and socializing with people that are business owners within the local area, and with that I'm starting to gain a lot of friendships, in my own personal life, working with people that have been owning their own businesses and running their own businesses. So it's changed a lot, but definitely for the better.
I'll invite you to one of our networking events as well, as I mentioned
Yeah,
at
for
the start
sure.
of this
That sounds really
interview.
good.
So we will do that.
Mm.
What motivates you really? I'm not talking about how you work and what motivates you in building your brand, but I'm talking about in general in life. What motivates you?
Yeah, I think it's helping small businesses, and that's why I chose what I chose in terms of Google Ads management. A lot of agencies focus on the big fish, the sort of corporate companies that have huge budgets, but I chose to work with the smaller fish, the local businesses that don't have the guidance and don't have enough money to kind of put aside for a dedicated Google Ads or marketing person in house. So I provide them with a first-class service for, you know, a cheaper rate than most would charge. In terms of on the business side, what motivates me is, again, yeah, just having my name off the door, building something that I care about and I can see real change in. Obviously, working for a corporate company before, there's a lot of input that you can have, but there's not a lot of output because many other things take priority. But at least with this, I have the final say, and I really value that.
Good. And do you have any advice for people that are in day jobs today, like me, and want to be an entrepreneur one day?
I think, yeah, like we kind of mentioned, you know, making sure that you actually enjoy the other side. You know, it's rose-tinted glasses. Everything seems better when you're in a 9 to 5 and you're not necessarily enjoying it, but always see things with a clear head and make sure that you're prepared for what comes next. I think in the previous time when I've tried to start different sort of ventures, I never gave it my all. I always did it with half effort. And at least with this time round, when I went part-time, I still had that residual income, but I did give the rest of it my full effort and attention. Once I knew it could work, I decided to jump in. And yeah, I think once you jump in and you put that commitment up, things will start to fall into place.
That's a good one. And I just wanted to ask you that last question, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the magic wand to become an entrepreneur?
I think with anything in life, it comes down to sales. It's how you present yourself and also how others perceive you. I think that's the most important thing. Whether you can perceive value is the biggest thing between you and any other competitor you'll ever have. You have to be excited about what you're offering, and that comes through with how you sell yourself as well as the product that you're trying to sell them. If you can't get them excited about it and you can't even be excited about yourself, it's never going to succeed. It's the same with even if you're going in a job interview, you need to be able to present yourself in a way where you're an asset to someone rather than a liability.
Thank you, Louis. I've learned a lot from you today. It was really a master class, so to say. So, just for people to understand your business, I mean, do you want to say a few words? I mean, the name of the company, how I'll probably have your details, and people can reach out to me, and we can share it with people. But do you want to just give a one-liner or maybe a few minutes about your company?
Yeah, so Savvy Digital is my company. Like I mentioned, it's a Google Ads management agency where we work with service-based businesses to generate leads at a cost where it's actually beneficial for them. So we make sure there's a return on investment, and we always make sure that they're getting the leads as cost-effective as possible. Our bread and butter clients tend to be people that are already running Google Ads, and with that, we're always able to improve their results. We actually have 100% track record of improving client results.
Okay, and this video as well, I believe we are gonna take it seriously and get some traction, right?
Yeah, hopefully. That sounds good.
Thank you. It's nice to talk to you, Louis. Thank you very much. And yeah, whatever questions people have, I'll probably forward it across to you, and I can connect people with you as well on that front.
Nice. Sounds good. And thank you for having me, Amber.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye.